The conferences, ACC, Big 10, Big 12, SEC, are basically circulating a document. And this is something that they say that they would like to use, where basically they will make the schools sign a loyalty oath saying, you agree to abide by the rules that we are putting forth in the House settlement, which is the salary cap and all that stuff. And if you don't, we'll kick you out. And Tennessee, also Vanderbilt, which is sort of just caught in the middle of this, is like, no, we have a state law that we passed 2 weeks ago that says you can't force us to violate the Sherman Act. And therefore, we're not going to follow your rules necessarily. So that is where they're at. Like, they are pointing the figurative guns at one another. And like, would one of these conferences actually try to kick one of these schools out?
Is it weird that I spent all morning like thinking about conference realignment and like where Tennessee would end up if that happened? Like, I just like, this is all going to blow up. But like, here's the deal that I like, and you're going to have to walk me through this stuff. Like, I'm fine.
Yeah.
You're the seasoned one with this. But I think that what we want in college football is for everybody to be beholden to the same set of rules. Now, there's going to be people who do things better. There's going to be people who do things more efficiently, smarter, have more money. There's always going to be, it's never going to be the NFL where everybody's on the same playing field because fan bases, universities, and areas of the country are just different. But I feel like the thing that wears on people the most, more than realignment, more than playoff expansion, more than recruiting violations, is that they don't feel like everybody is playing the same sport. And I just want to get to a point where we're playing the same sport. And it's just like, if we can't even figure it out in our own conference, like, what are we doing?
They all want that. The people in charge all want that. They just now have different ideas about how to get there. And the thing about it is, the people who are mostly in charge, the people running the conferences, they believe that what they've put together in the House settlement is going to be enough to actually govern this and is going to be enforceable. Everybody else who's paid attention to anything involving this stuff over the last 15 years is going, no, it won't. This is going to blow up. And so that's why the state of Tennessee passed a law. And we'll walk everybody through this now. So on May 1st, the Tennessee legislature passed a law. It was basically replacing the state's NIL law. And it did a couple of things. One of the things it did is it said the schools in the state can pay athletes directly. That is what everybody's doing in every state. They're changing their laws, or they're getting an executive order from their governor that lets them pay athletes directly, because they're going to be able to do that when the House settlement gets approved, which we think is going to happen soon. But what the folks in Tennessee are concerned about, and the people at the University of Tennessee helped them craft this legislation. So when I say Tennessee, I'm referring to the state and to the university. What they think is going to happen is this is all going to blow up, because here's what the House settlement says. You can pay athletes directly up to a percentage of the average revenue in the power conferences. So in this coming school year, the cap that the school could pay out is $20.5 million. In addition to that, athletes can go get NIL deals on their own, which is fine. Everybody's okay with that. Where it hangs up is they want to have this enforcement system where the deals get vetted, and if it looks like it's just for football and not for like a legitimate advertising or endorsement purpose, and it's not quote unquote market value, then the deal would be invalidated if the player would like to play. And you have to go back and renegotiate and create a deal that would get approved. This is not going to hold up. And a lot of people understand that, because it is still the schools and the conferences unilaterally imposing a wage cap on the athletes. It is illegal in this country for competitors to collude to price fix a labor market. That is what they keep getting in trouble in the courts for. They can't do that. They're not allowed to.
Because what they're trying to do is saying, okay, fine. We'll finally pay you people. But once we pay you people, stop it. Did I translate that right?
Yeah.
Just stop it.
Here's the thing. Whether the cap is $0 or the cap is $100 billion, it's still a cap.
The cap.
And you can't unilaterally impose it. Now, you can negotiate with the labor force. So the NFL has a collective bargaining agreement. They have lots of rules that they have to follow. Everybody does.
Collective bargaining agreement doesn't have any sort of language, to my understanding, on how people make money in their quote unquote NIL space.
Well, you can't circumvent the salary cap. You can't use it. So, like, if
you can't circumvent the salary cap, but once somebody, so you're saying that if somebody goes into NIL because they're not getting enough from their rev share to supplement their income in order to go there, but like, how do you even prove that?
There's the issue, because the people who are doing the paying, who are probably going to be boosters, who are probably trying to slide the players some extra money, they're going to say, who are you to tell me I can't pay this person what I want to pay them?
This is the whole discussion that we had months ago about this, of like, I still think you believe this, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you think that it'll be more like Major League Baseball once the House settlement goes through, right? Where everybody will have a little money and some will have more than others.
Theoretically, if this enforcement blows up, that's what it'll be like. And I don't think this enforcement arm will.
But what is to stop Tennessee from paying its football players X number of dollars, which is as much or more as everybody else in the country, and then their crazy boosters doing like that?
Nothing.
There's no stopping that. So, like,
correct.
I don't think that
there's no legal way to stop it. They're trying to stop it. They're going to try to use this thing. It is going to get challenged by multiple entities and blown up. And that's why Tennessee, the university, helped Tennessee, the state, craft this law, which basically says if this thing blows up, we can just keep paying and it's cool.
The thing that's so funny to me is that even if the NCAA, or if the SEC and the entities that want to try to enforce this quasi cap on NIL were successful, that we would just end right back up with payments under the table again. Like
that's exactly what would happen.
Like, there's no stopping the money from going from one to the other. Like,
so
and then teams will pay people out of the House settlement rev share, and then you'll start having recruiting stories about how this kid only went there because he got a bag of cash in McDonald's bag. Like, it's just going to go back to what it was before. So, like,
which is probably what they want, because the black market is much cheaper than the open market, costs less than the open market. But there are people in college sports now who want, or don't want, but just sort of accept that they're going to have to do collective bargaining if they would like to have some real rules. Because, like, Tennessee, which just lost its starting quarterback in a very public way, probably would like to be able to do contracts that it could actually enforce, like with a non-compete, so that they don't have a quarterback coming in trying to get a raise after 2 years when the deal is still, in Tennessee's eyes, pretty good. So that's the deal. And basically, the way the Tennessee law is written, Tennessee or Vanderbilt or Memphis, any school in the state, cannot be forced by its conference, by the NCAA, by any sort of association that hasn't been created yet, which in this case would be this CSC, which is the ACC, the Big 12, the Big 10, and the SEC, that they can't force them to violate federal law. They can't force them to take part in a system that is against the law. And the reason, and I talked to Danny White, the athletic director of Tennessee, the big reason behind that, one, they'd like, I can, this is my words, I think they'd like the biggest competitive advantage for sure. But also, they think that the next round of lawsuits will be against the schools. And so they don't want to be dealing with that. They don't want the University of Tennessee getting sued for violating the Sherman Act, like the NCAA has, like their conference has. So the question is, would a league or these leagues together actually kick somebody out over this? Or will other schools join Tennessee, other states join Tennessee and say, yeah, we probably think this is going to blow up too. So let's try to figure something else out.
Yeah, and let's just get back to a point where NIL still is the deciding factor. They're just going to get paid more money now. NIL is always
One thing I'll point out about this, if they ever do get a federal law, it supersedes this Tennessee law. Like, it's written into the Tennessee law. So if they ever do get a federal law, they don't have to worry about this. But they're probably not getting a federal law anytime soon.
And we probably should have seen this coming years ago too, of like, when you think about how big the industry has gotten, like, lawsuits were going to be aplenty when you're talking about how much money's at stake here with the people who are driving the, like, it just, like, of course. I just, like, the thing that I would like to know, and like, I'm not good at this, as you know, I've tried my political career and my agent career on this podcast, and neither have gone well.
You've been fired both times. Yes.
In your perfect world, Andy, what does the system look like from a compensation standpoint? What is the closest thing that we can get to everybody playing by the same rules? They won't be playing by the same money, but by the same rules.
Well, okay. So here's how you would do it. So you probably have this split off the revenue sports, or you could split every sport into its own entity if you wanted, and that might make it easier to manage. But in football, the players become employees of the whatever it is, the group, the organization. If it's multiple conferences together, if it's a super league, which as we've said, we don't want. But if it was say these four conferences together, like, they would be employees of those of whatever that organization is. It would be incorporated in a state.
So Super League Inc.
Right, exactly. It's incorporated in one state. You're dealing with the labor laws of that state. You then collectively bargain with the athletes, which would be one of the weakest unions in sports. Like, if college football players, major college football players, would be the single weakest union in pro sports because there's so many of them. Like, unions represent the bottom, not the top. The bottom is not worth that much compared to the top. So they'd be able to come up, I think, with a fairly reasonable number that the schools would pay the players, a percentage. I don't think the percentage would be as high as the NFL or the NBA. I believe those are like 52%. I don't think it would be anywhere near that high. And they would pay them. Now, and they'd have rules. So they would bargain with the players. The players would accept that there are rules, and they'd have to abide by them because there would be a collective bargaining agreement, so they could not sue.
Yeah.
Or they could
sue.
The only way
to create a collective bargaining agreement is by there being an employer-employee relationship of some sort.
Yeah, I think there have been some where you have like gig workers doing it, but it probably, yes, probably.
So now basically,
the question you usually get is, how do you do the non-revenue sports like that? And the way you do it is the same way that you do it with the revenue sports. It's a revenue share. It's a revenue share agreement. Like, in the revenue sports or in the NBA or the NFL, they say, okay, you're entitled to X percentage of revenues. Well, in the other sports, they would just say, you have an option here. You can opt into this and we'll give you a scholarship. Or you can opt into the revenue sharing portion and we will send you a bill for the percentage of the loss that your sport generates. Guess what every volleyball player is going to do?
Yeah, like, I have to be careful about what I say on here, but I'm just going to be honest with you. This is the college football podcast. I do not care about any of the other sports. Like, I know that, like,
and the people who keep saying they do because they just want to recreate the old system, they don't. They've never been to a college volleyball game. They've never been to a college track meet.
Their way
never been to a college swim meet. They don't care.
Their college football the way they like it.
Yeah.
But what is the distinction between those two things? It's in the name: revenue and non-revenue. So if you're in a non-revenue sport, if you get a scholarship, that is probably more lucrative than what you would have gotten anyway.
Well, it's definitely, and the thing is, like, in that situation, like Livy Dunn at LSU or Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese when they were playing in college basketball,
would be rich.
like they would still get NIL, like they would get endorsement money that would make them.
I just don't care about the right.
Very much whole.
Like they're just, and that's like the thing too, is just like, I have a daughter and I want her to be able to explore all the things that she wants, that her heart leads her to. And if she becomes a gymnast or she becomes a swimmer or whatever, and she's somehow supersedes my awful genes to be a college worthy athlete, like a part of me feels bad that she might not have the opportunities if those sports don't exist or if things change. But I also kind of understand that that's just kind of how the world works too. Like we all want to do things that we can't do. And if it means that it doesn't exist to be fair and to prop up the thing that people care about, then that's just kind of how it is. So like, I don't go to bed at night with this existential dread that they're going to like cut non-revenue sports that don't even draw a crowd, like,
yes, no. And here's the thing, if they care about them, they won't. And that's how I've argued with ADs about this, and I've told them millions of times, like, you will not cut what you actually care about. If you care about it, you'll figure out how to pay for it, because you guys figured out how to pay for it long before there was all this money. And you didn't add a bunch of sports when you got all the money. So,
and also too, if you want to talk about how, because part of the scam for the last 100 years was it's about the enrichment of students. It's about the, college experience, about giving people an opportunity to find themselves, all those wonderful things that you saw in the scam to not pay college football players. Why don't you actually put your money where your mouth is and fund those very much like you fund other things? Isn't university like one of the biggest business ventures in the entire country? Like when you think about the amount of money that people are paying with tuition, and the amount of money that these
budgets of the large state university, like they
can't figure
out
the
total budget of a large state university is in the multiple billions of dollars. It's huge,
right? Like you don't think that like if they really wanted to, that they could continue to fund the enrichment of young people? Like that's the whole point. It could be part of your tuition. Raise everybody's tuition $100.
They do. That's exactly what they do in the group of five. So.
Yeah. So I covered a team that had like more sports than any, or when I was in Columbus, they like are prideful. I think they have like 37 or 36 teams. So like, and I know that that's something that's a source of pride for them, but like I also feel like, spending other people's money right now, and I feel like Ohio State could fund those if they wanted to. It's a massive university with 60,000 students. Like there's plenty of money there.
Yeah, it's a choice. Don't let them lie to you.
So let them do it. Let them.
Don't let people who don't actually care about those sports claim they do. Because
like if you are like a person who has a kid on the team and it matters to you, like I love that. Like it's not.
Yeah.
The other question.
My kid's team matters to me too, but I realize you don't care.
But I also feel like too that like, and I don't know if this is just a terrible philosophy, and you need to check me if I'm like going to get clipped and people are going to get mad at me.
Okay.
But like. The entitlement to participate in sports should continue through high school. And then once you're through high school and you're a young adult, like that's when adulthood starts. Now, if you choose to go to college, great. But you're not entitled to play sports in college if they don't exist. So like
and that's the thing, like some of these sports could just drop to club level. There will still be that sport at that school. It just maybe you're not flying across country on a weeknight to play a conference game like that.
Yeah.